guys, welcome back once again to CBSE Board Economics. Today we discuss about the deficit in the government budget. In your syllabus, you are supposed to learn only the meaning of these three deficits, not in detail. Now, what are these deficits? We'll be learning in this short video. This video is going to help you for your December exam. Learn. The first one you have, what is revenue deficit? The revenue deficit is the excess of estimated revenue expenditure over revenue receipts. If the revenue expenditure is more than revenue receipts, it leads to revenue deficit. Formula: revenue deficit is equal to revenue expenditure minus revenue receipts. That means revenue expenditure is more than revenue receipts. Now, briefly we learn what exactly the implications, which is not in your syllabus, but have an idea. What does revenue deficit indicate? Revenue deficit indicates the unnecessary and wasteful expenditure of the government is increasing. What does it mean? It means the government is spending huge money on the administration, huge money on transfer payments, huge money on subsidies, pensions, which does not lead to any investments in the economy, which does not lead to any economic growth. That is revenue budget. Revenue deficit. Revenue deficit is if the expected revenue expenditure is more than revenue receipts. Okay, this is a kind of unnecessary expenditure of the government is going up. The next one you have, what exactly is fiscal deficit? The second one. Fiscal deficit is the difference between the total expenditure of the government. What is total expenditure? Revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. And total receipts of the government. What are total receipts? Revenue receipts and capital receipts, excluding borrowings. Excluding borrowings. Fiscal deficit is the difference between total expenditure of the government and total receipts excluding borrowings. It means fiscal deficit is nothing but borrowing requirements of the government, borrowings. These borrowings can be from the public, these borrowings can be from the RBI, these borrowings can be from the World Bank, these borrowings can be from International Monetary Fund, IMF, can be from foreign governments. So, fiscal deficit is nothing but borrowings. So, when the government borrows, obviously liabilities to the government will go up. The fiscal deficit should be 5% of the GDP. If it is beyond 5%, it leads to a lot of complications for the economy. It becomes a problem to repay back the borrowings. So, okay, we'll discuss fiscal deficit. What does it indicate? Have an idea. Fiscal deficit shows that the government is living beyond its means. The government is spending more than the means it has. It leads to future burden of the government will go up, interest payments on the borrowings will go up, the country will become dependent on other countries, the country will be caught in the vicious circle of debt trap. So we should try to reduce the fiscal deficit as much as we can. It should be less than the 5% of the GDP of the country. So that's fiscal deficit. Is the fiscal deficit good or bad? We can't say that. If the government is spending more money on developing infrastructure, investments, we can say that's good. Economy will grow. Okay, that's fiscal deficit. In your syllabus, you just have fiscal deficit is the difference between total expenditure minus total receipts excluding borrowings. That means fiscal deficit is nothing but borrowings. Remember that. Revenue deficit is excess of revenue expenditure over revenue receipts. And the last deficit is primary deficit. What is primary deficit? Primary deficit is the difference between fiscal deficit, which we just discussed, minus interest payments on the past loans which the government has borrowed, interest payments on the past loans. So primary deficit is equal to fiscal deficit minus interest payments. what is primary deficit? In your syllabus, you just have to learn 3 formulae, that's it. So revenue deficit is revenue expenditure minus revenue receipts, fiscal deficit is borrowings, total expenditure minus total receipts. And primary deficit, you just have to remember fiscal deficit minus interest payments. What are these interest payments? On the past loans. Now let's elaborate bit to understand. Primary deficit shows the fiscal responsibility and irresponsibility of the government. The government is supposed to clear all the interest payments on the past loans. If the primary deficit is low or zero, that shows fiscal responsibility of the government. The government is compelled to borrow more loans this financial year again to meet the past loans. To meet the interest payments on the past loans. If the primary deficit is too high, it shows fiscal irresponsibility of the government. Just remember that. So government should clear the interest payments on past loans. That's it. In the government deficits, you have 3 deficits. You remember: revenue deficit, revenue expenditure minus revenue receipts; fiscal deficit, total expenditure minus total receipts excluding borrowings; and primary deficit is fiscal deficit minus interest payments. Fiscal deficit plus interest payments will give you fiscal deficit. So primary deficit is fiscal deficit minus interest payments. That's all we have in this short video. Keep learning it. That's all, right? Okay, this will help you for your December exam. Best of luck for exam. Don't forget to share, subscribe and like the videos. Till we meet next time. Goodbye guys. Bye bye.